Going to talk about factory rifles. I've had people email me that can't afford to buy a custom rifle. There are some decent, fairly desirable factory rifles out here that I think are good investments. One of the very, very best is a Seiko Tikka. This is a stainless model of Seiko Tikka. It happens to be a 300 Winchester short magnum. It has a Swarovski scope on it, a 4 to 12 Swarovski scope on it, with basically a reticle that allows for range correction, hash mark type of reticle. This is a very good, no-nonsense rifle. The bolt, you can just see, looking in as I'm demonstrating, I'm doing this with a finger and a thumb, how easy this bolt operates. And it's got a detachable magazine. This is an all plastic type of a magazine. You don't have any feed problems. These are designed in such a way that they don't scratch your cartridge cases. I think this is a real asset. You can have several of these magazines instead of a cartridge pouch. You could have a pouch to have the magazine, an extra one. Have a couple of magazines. Or you can just use the one magazine and have a cartridge pouch, however you desire to have it on your belt. But this feed system, off of this plastic magazine, is just absolutely a tremendous system. It works just nearly flawlessly, and it pops in very easy. There's a release button on the front that pops right out. This is an injected and molded plastic stock. This is actually a quality stock. It's a no-nonsense, just plain Jane factory stock. It's rigid. It isn't all twisty and squirmy. Those are not desirable. It's got somewhat of a palm swell here on the grip of the stock. It fits good. It's got a nice, pattern of whatever you want to call it here to give you a grip on the stock so it doesn't feel slick. It's got an integral rail machined on the top of the action to mount your scope rings on. There are a lot of folks that sell different types of scope rings, the manufacturers of them. This scope happens to be, it's not my rifle. It's just simply a rifle that I'm using for our conversation. The scope's mounted a little higher than what I would desire, but different individuals have different facial features and builds and everything. Some things that might fit me might not fit you or the next person. But this is a real light rifle. This rifle that I'm holding in my hands with the scope complete, what you're looking at here, weighs 7.5 pounds. Now this is a rifle you can hunt with all day and carry all day in real hunting situations. And it's not long, it's not overly too long, it's not bulky or anything else, and being stainless makes it somewhat of an all-weather type of a rifle. It's got, a two-lug type of a bolt, the Seiko style extractor. It works just really slick. The bolt inserts very easily. It just slides like it's on glass, darn near. There are features here that you can't even get in rifles that cost a lot more than this. This is a desirable package for somebody. Not everybody could afford a Swarovski scope. Maybe just a Leopold or a Nikon or what it might ever happen to be. for scopes. And I encourage everybody to have the Butler Creek tile scope covers that pop up to protect your scope lenses. I think that these are wonderful. It's much better than having basically kind of a sock that slides over here that you're going to lose someplace. Not that they don't work, they do work, but it's handy. The gun balances well, it points well, and you know, this is a reasonably decent cartridge, the 300 Winchester Short Magnum, and for a lot of hunting purposes, real life hunting purposes, it's a good rifle out to about 450 yards for most any game that you want to hunt with proper ammunition. I think it's very desirable. It's got a reasonably soft recoil pad, unlike a lot of manufacturers have a brick on them. I mean, it's just a regular brick on the end of the stock is what it is. It's so hard.
That one's not.
This one's not. This one's nice and soft, you see, and it's got a wonderful trigger. You can adjust this trigger. You can take the barrel action out of the stock. You can adjust this trigger. As these stocks are molded to fit this action, they fit virtually perfectly. They're made in such a way that, as a rule, they don't even require needing to be hand bedded for accuracy. These rifles, Seiko's always been known for having accurate rifles. This is a real simple, I think, cost-wise, inexpensive cost-wise rifle. You know, you can buy blued models or stainless models, and I don't think that you would go wrong with either one. This is a Winchester Model 70 featherweight, the current Model 70 type featherweights that they make today. And this is also a very desirable rifle. This happens to be one of my rifles, one of my light rifles. This rifle is 7 3/4 pounds. This has got a 4-power Lyman All-American scope. The glass is as sharp as Zeiss or Swarovski or anybody else's. The glass is so good in this Lyman scope, you can really see with it.
How old is it?
And I don't know, this scope is, they haven't even made these scopes for probably 35 years or something like that. But you see, there are still some good things, even though the scope's older than the rifle. But it's a light, fairly simple rifle, one that you can carry all day. It's nice and trim. And being a Model 70, of course, Model 70s are known for their 3-position safety. You can put it on half safe. You can operate the bolt, take cartridges out. It's got a quick release floor plate. If you don't want to operate the bolt, you can drop the cartridges out in your hand. These Model 70, it's a push feed. It actually works extremely well. And with this on safety, I walk the mountains a lot with a Winchester Model 70. You can rely on this safety. I carry a gun in a lot of my hunting situations loaded with the safety on. We live in grizzly country, and I'll shoot a grizzly just in a heartbeat if I have to, and that's why that rifle is loaded with the safety on. This happens to be a 6.5 by 55. Now this cartridge is something over 100 years old. This is a wonderful cartridge. This preceded, what is perceived as the best cartridge that's ever come down the line, the 6.5 Creedmoor. Well, this preceded the 6.5 Creedmoor by over 100 years. I still think it's a better cartridge from a lot of aspects and so forth. I think it's very desirable. They're both good cartridges, but this has seen the test of time, this cartridge, and this rifle has seen the test of time. The Winchester Model 70, they started making Winchester Model 70s, back in the 30s, and they're wonderful actions. I showed you the earlier rifle, the Seiko, so smooth. This Model 70 is very smooth too, and it feeds cartridges from the magazine just like grease, just like that Seiko does. Few rifles do that. But anyway, this is one of my, as I say, go-to lightweight hunting rifles.
Explain the thing on top of the scope.
I've got a sticker on top of my scope here, drop figures. You know, this particular rifle, I sighted in 2 inches high at 100 yards. This will give me a zero at 225 yards with the load that I happen to use, and it gives me my drop figures out to 500 yards. You know, I might shoot an antelope at 500 yards with the rifle, but I probably wouldn't shoot much past about 400 yards with this rifle, and because of the energy. But it's a nice light rifle. I killed a full crow bighorn ram with this rifle at about 375 yards in 1994. I was lucky to draw a Wyoming sheep tag after 30 some odd years. Anyway, I think this is an affordable type of a rifle. I'm encouraging these two particular rifles. There's a lot of other rifles out there. There's probably some that work just as nice, almost just as smooth as these do. You know, I just don't happen to have hands on everything that there is. These are just some of the things that I recommend. This is a custom rifle. This is one of my custom rifles. Happens to be one of my rifles. I'm not real fond of some particular action types. Some just work better than others. The two that I just showed you work better than others. I feel that it works better than a Remington 700. This is a Remington 700 with a fiberglass stock. Has a 3-9 Leopold scope on it. This is a no-nonsense rifle. It's got a good low-mounted scope where it belongs. A fluted match quality stainless steel barrel. It's a Schilling barrel. The Remington 700 action, and it works actually just as about as smooth as almost anything. But when you feed cartridges from a Remington, they don't feed quite as slick and smooth as either one of these other models of rifles, makes and models of rifles. But it's still a good rifle. This rifle happens to be a 6.5 by 300 SAUM, short action ultramag, SAUM, SAUM. And I happened to load 120 grain Hornady GMX bullets for this rifle. This is only a 23-inch barrel on this rifle, but this rifle pushes that 120 grain bullet at 3,300 feet a second, and those bullets are one of the best bullets that Hornady makes. Is the GMX design of bullet. I highly recommend it. And anyway, you know, this particular rifle, you know, the vintage of the action and the trigger and everything, it's got the safety that you can open the bolt and take a cartridge out, which to some extent I think is an asset, but it's also a detriment. I've had so many people remark that if they're walking through brush, that'll kick this safety off, or if they hit brush, it'll open the bolt and drop the cartridge out that's in your chamber. That's not a good idea. So we traded one idea for another idea. It's not the best choice. I'd rather have a bolt like the Pre-64 Model 70 that'll lock the bolt. It locked the bolt and couldn't come open in the brush to dump your cartridge out into the brush. So anyway, you know, this is not a real expensive, you know, custom rifle as far as my custom rifles go. This is kind of in the mid category between a real high price custom rifle and a little bit lower price custom rifle. Anyway, I'm showing it just to show you, you know, some of the things that I do, because it's almost endless what I do and you know, can offer. Here's one of my full custom rifles. This is built on a board and action. It's got a diamond pattern fluted bolt. These actions, as far as custom Remington 700 style actions, there's not another action made by anybody, irregardless of the manufacturer, that is as precision as Jim Borden's custom action. This is why I chose it for some of our custom rifles. And it's got a Timney trigger. It's got an HS Precision magazine box, bottom metal, quick detachable floor plate. It's a staggered cartridge situation, but it feeds off the top center of the magazine box. And this is a tremendously good feed system. This is a 300 Winchester Magnum, and it's got a Hart stainless barrel on it. Our muzzle brake finished with just a bead blast stainless finish. This is a Macmillan, signature quality stock with molded in color. Happens to be olive, black, and gray with a fairly high cheek piece, a nice palm swell. This is just one of our full custom rifles. This rifle fits. You see where your head is? It fits just absolutely wonderfully. This has got a VX 5 HD 3 to 15 by 44 millimeter Leopold scope with a CDS dial system. It's got parallax adjustment. This has got a fire dot reticle. You can use this fire dot reticle 24 hours a day. It's got low enough power. 3 power is low enough that when you get into thick cover, it's very handy. If you want to shoot at extreme ranges, you've got, the power to kick it up or on the target. This has got tally 2-piece bases and tally rings. This is a very, very strong mounting system. These actions are made for us by Jim with our Randy's custom rifles on, engraved in the action. And as I say, there's nobody that makes a more precision Remington 700 style footprint of an action than Jim Borden.
Is that muzzle brake?
There are a lot of producers of these custom actions, but none of them match what Jim does. Jim is very meticulous in what he does making this action, and
Is that muzzle brake machined into the
this
barrel?
This is an add-on muzzle brake, and if you notice, you can't hardly see where the two of these join. I believe that muzzle brakes should look like they belong there, and I think this belongs there. It's not a big blob out here. It's not a real noisy brake because of the diameter of the holes and how everything's designed, how it vents the gas. But anyway, let's go back to this Leopold scope. You can send off your ballistics information to them, to Leopold. They'll send you a custom dial. It's got a 0 stop, and I put a lot of these scopes on, and this 5 HD and the 6 HD series of Leopold scopes have glass that's every bit as good as Swarovski or Zeiss or anybody else's. It's tremendous glass that they're putting into these scopes. You can really, really see on the target like almost nothing else.
What information do they ask on the CDS?
They ask for about 8 or 10 different pieces of information to be able to provide you with this dial. And with one of these, when you buy one of these scopes, there's a slip that comes that asks you questions, and you can simply answer those questions and email Leopold, and expect to wait probably several months from Leopold to get your custom dial, because they're busy folks. They're making a lot of scopes, and they're taking care of a lot of needs, and I almost always go to Leopold. I always recommend Leopold, and I'll always continue to. I've used them. I've used Leopold scopes since 1966. I've mounted literally hundreds of them, and they're a tremendous dollar value and they always stand behind their scope. But this kind of gives you a little bit of a rundown, you see. So to do with our custom rifles or suggested factory rifles. So thank you.